episode, we will take up a very specialized type of scripting, that is scripting for news and current affairs. Now, in news and current affairs also, you have to be very, very precise and brief in your scripting. Why? Why this need for this precision? Because a news capsule, or rather a news bulletin, lasts for 5 minutes to 25 minutes. You have 5 minutes long news bulletins, or you may have longer, up to 25 minutes of news bulletin. And in a 25 minutes news bulletin, about 20 news items or news stories can be incorporated. Okay, so to incorporate, say 20 news items in a full-length news bulletin, you have to be very, very precise. Okay, so hence this need for precision and directness. Okay, now if one has come from the print medium, there are a lot of things one has to unlearn in order to succeed in broadcast news scripting. One has to unlearn a lot of things that is practiced in the print medium. Now let us take this newspaper story. This is the shortest story. I would request somebody to read it out and somebody else to time it. Okay, and then we will discuss that how it is not suitable for broadcast news. Okay, so you will do the timing. Okay.
Start. Series is on, Shoaib is not. February 18th. The good news is that Pakistan has agreed to play a one-day match in Ahmedabad. And the bad news is that Shoaib Akhtar is not coming. What bad news? Indian batsmen who fear fast bowling or do not have the technique to face up to Shoaib may ask. From all indication, it appears Sachin Tendulkar, nursing a tennis elbow for months, would be fit to play since it was announced today that he would lead West Zone in the Dulep Trophy tie against South on February 22nd. But there will also be no Mumbai Maestro versus Rawalpindi Express, which is what an India-Pakistan test match is all about, whether in Ahmedabad or Calcutta. With the Pakistan Cricket Board accepting its Indian counterpart revised proposal to play a one-dayer instead of a test in Ahmedabad, it was confirmed today that the Eastern Metro will host the 5-day match. We have accepted the proposal to play in Ahmedabad, PCB media advisor Abbas Zaidi said after a meeting on the board in Lahore. Whatever has been proposed by BCCI has been accepted by us, he added, making it clear that the PCB has agreed to a delayed start to the series that was to have begun on February 25th. The BCCI had said yesterday that the series would have to be deferred by at least 7 days because of the changed itinerary at a court case over telecast rights. We appreciate BCCI showing understanding of some of our reservations, Pakistan said. Gujarat Chief Minister Narendra Modi was appreciative too of Pakistan agreeing to play at least a one-dayer in Ahmedabad. I hope they come, play and show sportsman spirit. Allah and Ishwar have given them understanding and I thank them for that, he said. The revised itinerary should be known latest by Sunday. The tour lost some of its shine when Shoaib announced that he was pulling out because of injury. I aggravated my injury a couple of days ago and now it seems that I will take 4 to 5 weeks to recover, he said. He left open the possibility of playing the one-day series that would follow the 3 tests.
Okay, so how long was it?
2 minutes 30 seconds.
2.5 minutes. That is much too long. Okay, much too long for broadcast news. All right. So now one has to shorten it. Now let us see how. First of all these frills will go. Frills in the sense कि what bad news, then in the third paragraph is written what bad news is good news to those who can't face his bowling line, etc. So all those things will go. Okay. Second thing, you will notice here that the news begins with, the first para says that good news is Pakistan has agreed to play a one-dayer in Ahmedabad. Okay. So this is like a lead. Okay. The second para says that but Shoaib Akhtar is not going to play here. Okay, so that is another thing. Means one piece of news is that Pakistan has agreed to play one day in Ahmedabad. The second item is Shoaib Akhtar is not going to play. Okay, so these are two leads. In two successive paragraphs, he has given two leads. All right, the two leads in broadcast news is just not acceptable. All right, you have to deal with only one issue at a time. Now, if you read this news item, I have all of you listened to it carefully. There are a number of issues that have been touched upon. One is Shoaib not playing. Second is possibility of Sachin Tendulkar playing. Okay. Third is Pakistan has agreed to play the one day in Ahmedabad. Fourth is the Pakistan Cricket Board (PCB) and BCCI, the understanding between them that they have agreed to BCCI's proposals. And then there is a shift in the venue and their schedule. Okay, so there are a number of things that have been addressed. In broadcast news, in each news capsule, you have to address only one issue. Okay, and you should not go back and forth. For example, here in the second para, the correspondent, the reporter, has written about Shoaib not coming. Then that has been taken up once again in the last para, where Shoaib says that he has aggravated his injury, which will take 4 or 5 weeks to heal, and so he cannot join the series. So after the second para, again the same thing has been taken up in the last para. So he is jumping issues. Okay, first of all, he has dealt with too many issues and he is jumping. Okay, now in print it is okay because you can always go back and forth. If you have missed out something, you can always read the first paragraph. Television doesn't offer that opportunity. Okay, in one go you have to understand everything, assimilate everything, and so the unfolding of the story has to be linear. Gradually you have to reveal the facts in a logical way. Linear, gradual unfolding of the story, and issues should not be mixed up. So one story, one issue. Okay, so from this at least 2 news capsules can come out. Now, let us try and phrase the first news capsule. So supposing the first one, we decide it is about Shoaib and Sachin participating, playing in the series, and who is not playing. Okay, so first news capsule is on that. Okay, now a news capsule has 3 major sections. First is the lead. I'll just name the 3 sections, the lead, follow-up and lead out. Okay, so first is the lead. Now in lead, the correspondent, it may be usually it is the studio anchor, he just introduces the story, okay, and hooks the viewer onto the story. So the lead doesn't reveal everything. Lead just introduces you to the story in an interesting way so that the viewer is glued to the TV, just to hook the viewer. Okay, and then in the follow-up, that matter is dealt with in details immediately. Okay, so lead will logically lead to a follow-up which will tell more details about the thing, and then the lead out is the concluding thing. All right, so given this story, what will be the lead? Now, since the lead has to be catchy, the language also has to be catchy, I felt that here there is one particular line that says that there won't be any Mumbai Maestro versus Rawalpindi Express. Okay, so do you think that is catchy enough to be the lead?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So let us decide that that itself is going to be the lead. All right. So we can say that that in the forthcoming India-Pakistan series, scheduled to begin on whatever, there will no Mumbai Maestro versus Rawalpindi Express. Yeah. Okay, this is the lead. All right. Now, most of you may know the allusion to Rawalpindi Express, but many may not know. Okay. So immediately after that, there has to be the follow-up, which will explain the things. Now, supposing Mumbai Maestro is Sachin, people will immediately recognize. Okay, so in the follow-up, then we will have to, let us say that we first talk about Sachin. All right. Now, if you read here between the lines, it is said that Sachin is suffering from that tennis elbow, and but he is likely to play the series because it has been reported he will be leading West Zone in the Dalip Trophy. So if he is fit to lead West Zone in Dalip Trophy, then by extension of the logic, he will be fit for the
Right.
series. Okay, but otherwise there is no confirmed report. Okay, so how do you put all this together in the follow-up? Now here is a suggestion. Suppose we say in the follow-up, Sachin Tendulkar, in spite of his tennis elbow, may be fit to play against Pakistan. It was earlier announced that he would lead the West Zone in Dalip Trophy. Okay, well, what do you feel? Is it okay, or do you want to rephrase it?
Something like the master returns as the
Yeah,
skipper of Mumbai and
that's
the
catchy.
Again, I'll become frilly.
Frilly,
But yeah.
master returns and gives a
Because in
nice
the,
impression.
yeah, in the
bold
lead
impression.
it is Mumbai Masters,
Yeah.
write it?
something like
master
the
return-
master returns as the skipper of Mumbai and Dilip Trophy.
Skipper of West Zone.
Skipper of West Zone.
West Zone in Dalip Trophy, which leaves us with the safe conjecture that he will be fit,
Fit
for the
Pakistan
series,
series.
India-Pakistan series. Okay, yeah, that is more catchy. And the repetition of the
Yeah,
word master
master.
is wiser. The master returns from his hibernation to lead Dalip Trophy. Then in the second sentence, so we can make a safe conjecture that he, instead of he, you write Sachin Tendulkar. Achha, now here a word about the sentences for broadcast news. The sentences have to be short with simple words. You know, like this word itinerary. You were every time you were reading it, you were
Yeah.
stumbling upon it.
Yeah.
Okay, so do not put the words which are like tongue twisters. So instead of itinerary, you put schedule. Okay,
Yeah.
there's something that is simpler, and the sentences should be short. The maximum word for each sentence, the word limit is 25 words. If your sentence exceeds 25 words, then you better try and break it down into two shorter sentences. So because you have to write for the ear, not for the eye. I mean, whatever sounds well, whatever is easy to read, and whatever sounds smooth, sounds good, that is what you have to see, not showing off your literary skills and using difficult words. So always remember that when writing for news, you have to write for the ear and not for the eyes. Then follow-up continues, so we have to talk about Shoaib. Okay, so this particular paragraph says the tour has lost some of its sheen, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So here again, this is a frill, so you can cut it off. Okay, cut it off. Achha, and there is a quote of Shoaib. Now, how do you convey the quote? All right. Now, thing is that you can always paraphrase. Now, this quote is nothing earth-shattering, neither in terms of the language nor in terms of the content. Okay. So, you don't have to say exactly these words. Okay. So, you can always paraphrase it, and you can say that he is reported to have said. That, I mean, this
Okay,
it
yeah.
has come from him. So, he is reported to have said, and you paraphrase it, you make it shorter. Okay, shorter and maybe simpler. Okay, so then you can write like this, then after that Sachin thing, that however, Shoaib has confirmed his inability to join the series. He is reported to have said that he will take 4 to 5 weeks to recover from the aggravated injury he had earlier sustained.
Simple and nice, yeah.
Okay, so this is your, so therefore we talk about Sachin, we talk about Shoaib, and then the lead out. So in the lead out, we can say that this leaves open the possibility of Shoaib playing the one-day series that would follow the test series. Okay, that is the lead out. Okay, so the purpose of the lead out is that in a way rounding up this particular capsule and leaving something also indicating to the future that what may happen in future. So this is your as a very simple news story. Now, if you read it in continuity, it will take, I think, about 30 seconds or so. So, this is about, this is just one example that how to craft a small news capsule which is meant for broadcast. Okay, so that is now a lot of information. I think before we proceed further, we should have a quick recap. Okay, so who will start?
Ma'am, for the recap, you said that while scripting broadcast news, we should write for the ear and not for the eye.
And ma'am, each news capsule should last for 20 seconds or 2 minutes, not more than that, as you mentioned.
From 20 seconds to
To
2
2
minutes. So
minutes.
maximum is 2 minutes. So therefore the need for precision.
And ma'am, there's also this thing about broadcast medium that one news capsule should handle only one issue, and if it's a complex news item, it could be broken down into several shorter news capsules.
A news capsule has lead, follow up, and lead out. It is a story told in a linear fashion where facts are gradually revealed. And TV news is written in a simple language using a active voice and short sentences.
Okay. Yeah, Acha, but now just coming back to your point of the facts are gradually revealed. An interesting fact I would like to tell you that when you are writing for the print medium, normally in the first paragraph you give all the important information of the news, means who, what, when, how, where. Everything you answer in the first paragraph in headlines, and then you go into details. So it's called an inverted pyramid mode of presentation. Now why it is done? Because when fitting in the news report, the editor might not have enough space. Okay, so if everything is given in the first paragraph, then the tail part, even if it is cut off, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So that is why this practice is there. So it's called an inverted pyramid. But when writing for broadcast news, you should not follow this inverted pyramid thing. It should be a gradual revelation of the fact, whether it is in 20 seconds or in 2 minutes. But at a regular pace, you should reveal the facts one by one. Now, as I told you that you always write for the ear and not for the eye, and you try to copy the spoken language, but without any fumblings and without any grammatical mistakes and with proper usage of the words. Okay, so you can say that TV news writing is writing the way people would talk if they use their language correctly and got their facts straight. So it should have that air of slight casualness, conversation kind of feel. Okay, so for that here are a few tips. Number one, use active voice. So that means he did it, instead of it was done by him, he did it. Okay, active voice. Then use the word you from time to time. Say for example, you will have to pay these 2 rupees extra per liter for petrol from Monday. Okay.
That means addressing
the viewer, because the news reader is always looking into the camera. Okay, that means he is basically
Talking
looking
to
into the audience. So in that entire news bulletin, in a couple of news items, you can, in the appropriate ones, you can put this word you. Then number 3, when you write it, write as you would say. When you are writing the script, do not write 100, write 100. Because that's the way you are going to say it. Even. Then round off numbers, like suppose 4.37 crores. So instead of writing 4.37 crores, write nearly 4.5 crores.
Approximately.
Okay. Then avoid reading lists and numbers. Now suppose you are presenting the budget news. Okay, so there is a long list that this tax, that tax, the prices of this has gone up, this has gone down, long list. How do you handle this? Give a suggestion. What
Like
do you do?
you can talk about the main requirements of the people, like daily consumption
The
things. You
main
can talk about
pointers
that,
instead
of
and
going
rest
in
you can
detail.
show by a card displaying that these are the taxes which are increase or decrease, whatever.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So basically, you categorize.
Yeah.
Means out of all the items, all the household everyday items, you categorize as one. The electronic gadgets, you categorize. So like that, you leave out some things. You emphasize some very important things which everybody is interested in, and broadly you categorize the whole list into some types. So therefore, do not read out lists and numbers as it is. Okay. Never use statistics without explaining its significance. Okay. For example, that petrol prices have gone up by 10%. Okay. So here you say that for every liter you will pay how many rupees more.
Extra.
Okay. That will be otherwise gone up by 10%.
They
It
wouldn't,
won't immediately make a connection. Okay. So whenever there is statistics, you explain the significance of that. Just do not just give the statistics data. That won't mean anything to anybody. Okay, then contractions like don't, can't, like that you use, because that's what is
More
done in a
understood in
conversation.
language, yeah.
But when you want to emphasize then you don't put can't, you put cannot or will not, like that. So he will not be able to make it to India.
You have to be a little formal.
No, not only formal, emphasize that not.
Okay.
And in the, when you are scripting it, write it in capital letters so that you know that you will have to emphasize it. Now, abbreviations like CNN, UNO, CBI, acronyms like SARC are widely understood. Okay, so these you can always use. Okay, whenever you want to talk about CNN or BBC, you don't have to say the whole thing. Everybody knows. Okay, but do not use obscure abbreviations. I would now like to talk a little bit about this immediacy factor that is so important for television. Now, television always gives the impression of being live. So, television news, also the language of television news has to conform to this immediacy factor. Okay, so means like something that happened recently, maybe in the morning or maybe half an hour back, is being immediately relayed to you. Okay, nowadays we do have a lot of live newscasts, but all newscasts are not live. Even if it is not live, in the language this immediacy thing should be there. Okay, so for example, on 21st March, the group will go out on a peace march, suppose. Now, instead of saying this on 21st March, you say that on Monday, or say in 2 days from now, the group will go out on a peace march. Instead of stating that exact date, write in 2 days from now. Okay, so that way you have to conform to the immediacy factor that is so integral to television. Now, what do you do about the stale factor? Means supposing you could not report something on time for whatever reason, they didn't have enough facts or whatever, but it has to be reported, one particular news, you should not ignore it. Okay, say suppose there was a fire and you didn't report it on the day of the fire. Okay, so now how do you tackle it? You have to bring in an immediacy factor. So you can say that fire investigators are still puzzled this morning over the cause of the fire that gutted 5 shops in Esplanade. No, that as if it's a continuing thing, that investigators are still at it and you are reporting to them that they are still puzzled. Okay, and then you can go back to the history in the follow-up, to the background. So this is the immediacy factor. Then the next thing is the where element. All right. So I read out a piece of news. Say, supposing it reads like this: at least 200 villagers were killed and hundreds injured today when a tornado hit Midnapur and Balasore, the 2 coastal districts of West Bengal and Orissa. Okay. So normally, if it is a national news, you will have to mention that coastal districts of West Bengal and Orissa, and maybe it has to be supported with a map. Okay. But if the same news you are carrying in a local news channel, on a Bangla news channel, then you won't have to mention these 2 coastal districts of West Bengal and Orissa, because Midnapur and Balasore will be known by everybody. Okay, so then you just have to say that the tornado hit these 2 coastal districts, the Midnapur and Balasore. That will be enough. In fact, you can even mention the names of some of the villages, because the people, particularly people who have something to do with Midnapur, they would like to know more details. Okay, all right. Yeah. So in Midnapur district, which villages were affected? It's better if you mention that. Sometimes it is easy to begin with that where element because it acts as a transition. Okay, because when you have to switch from one news item to another news item, now you can say that, say back in Russia, this is what is happening. So you begin with the where element, so people are immediately transported to something mentally, some other place, and then they hook on to that other story. So sometimes this where element is also used as a transition. Now, if something major has happened, say supposing that plane hijack at Kandahar, okay, or a tsunami, okay, or say suppose a very major disaster, okay, something major and something totally out of the way.
Something like 9/11 or something.
Something like 9/11. Then what happens is that the entire news bulletin may be dedicated to only that. There's no other news, no sports news, no soft stories, nothing. Only news about that particular event will be covered in different little news capsules. Acha, now again, once again, some more tips for any broadcaster. Number one is you have to be politically correct. So number one, be careful about what is observed and what is celebrated. For example, Muharram. You never say that Muharram is celebrated. Muharram is observed because it is not a happy occasion. So Muharram is observed. Holi is celebrated. Okay, so be careful about that. All right. Then second, be extra careful when you are dealing with a race or religion. Okay. Now here is one more cliche, and you please, it's quite objectionable if you just think about it. So please comment on it. The cliche is, man is the master of the universe. It's an oft repeated thing. Man is the master of the universe. So do you find it objectionable?
Yes, totally.
Why?
I think it's too biased towards man being. It should in fact be something like people are the masters of the universe, because it's humans. It's not a man.
Yeah. Okay. So you mean that why womankind
Sexual
has been
Why should
left
women
out?
be excluded?
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So therefore, the language should be more inclusive.
Exactly.
That human being is the master of the
And not
universe.
exclusive.
And not man.
Yes.
And don't get carried away. Don't get your bias have the better of you.
Mislead them.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what it is. Acha, now let's have a conclusion.
Ma'am, doing a recap, we could mention the fact that TV has always this impression of being live, so there has to be always a confirming to the immediacy factor.
Then ma'am, we even emphasize on the where factor. That is, depending on whether it is a local news or a national news, we deal with the where factor. Like you gave us the example of Midnapur. If it's in local, then we emphasize more on details of that place. And the other factor, where factor, is also important for showing a transition of place from place to place. It helps us in the transition.
Ma'am, you even mentioned that, the pointers that you should keep in mind while television broadcasting, that you have to be careful what is observed and what is celebrated. Like you gave an example of Muharram and Holi, that Muharram is observed and not celebrated, while Holi is the other way around. You even mentioned that we have to be extra careful while we deal with any race or religion.
So and also proper phrasing so that your bias doesn't come through. So don't make sweeping generalizations.
exactly.
So
It's
be
so
objective.
obvious, yeah.
Okay, so that is a lot of lesson to be remembered. Please read it and try to assimilate all these things.